Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the English broadcast of the Chinese LPL. I am Max Atlas Anderson. I am joined by the wonderful Christopher Papa Smithy Smith, and we're here for the second game of the day between Vici Gaming and, of course, Gamty, our Panda Bear wearing sweatshirt players. And man, they had a fantastic performance last week, but they've been a bit of split lords, the old Gamty.
I mean, a lot of the teams of the LPL have been Atlas. It's been a premium on 2-0 wins, you have to think. A lot of these teams have been stepping up. These series that were 2-0 wins in the start of the season, teams like Gamty, coming up from the LPL, getting all that practice with the LPL teams, it's just a lot closer across the standings. And Vici, with a 2-0 win here, can actually catapult to 4th place from 7th, I believe, which would be a massive jump for them. Gamty, still in with a shot of playoffs, but they have a very hard run-in against some of the top teams in the league. So they need to get the maximum points now to give themselves any sort of shout to make it to playoffs.
Yeah, do you think that that's going to revolve around their mid laner? Of course, Xiaohu having a phenomenal performance last week, despite the fact that they were splitting.
Yeah, 23, 3, and 13 was his mid-Ezreal against Invictus Gaming Sunday. So, 5 days ago. It was a big performance. As you mentioned, could only pick up the one win. They were a bit outcomped in the second game, and there was just nothing he could do. A lot of damage coming out of mid-Ezreal, but not a lot of crowd control, which his team desperately needed. He's been very individually impressive. He's definitely, the moment that he joined the team in week 3 or 4, he revitalized what was a Gamty team that was flagging at the bottom of the ladder, and has really injected some points, but it hasn't been the big 3-point victories. They've been splitting a lot, as you mentioned, and that's why they're still comfortably out of the running for playoffs, at least right now. They need to make a late charge. They're going to have to start doing it with this game against Vici.
Yeah, we've only got a few weeks left. Of course, it's going to get to the point where it's almost impossible to get to those playoffs. So all of these teams that are towards the bottom end of the standings are going to have to be putting in every ounce of effort. And our top teams need to start denying it as well, because Gamty have been one of these teams that's able to take games off everyone.
Yeah, famously twice against OMG now, I believe. Yeah. 2 series splitting 1-1. There's a bonus point you'd have to think at the start of the season, but they've matched up very well against OMG, like we mentioned. Vici's going to be an interesting one. Vici, I think, debuted the most interesting comp of the week. It was the Diana top, so Diana coming back into competitive play. We have to think World Elite will be looking to play that Diana later today in our next series, actually. Diana top, Nidalee jungle, Cho'Gath mid, the first of the Cho'Gaths that dominated week 8 of the LPL.
Yeah.
And then the Lucian Thresh in the bottom lane. So much poke. It was the 40% CDR build coming out from Hetong in the mid lane on that AP Cho'Gath very early. Just a Murlonomicon CDR boots. Just Rupture on a 5-second cooldown. Diana throwing in those Qs looking for the Luna Rush engages. So much poke. Actually provoked the surrender against their opposition. As we start coming through the Gamty lineup, this is the man to look for. Xiao has been wonderful on the mid lane. That Ezreal, as we mentioned, was deadly.
Yeah, it does tend to fall off a little bit towards the later ends of the game. They've been struggling to close it out, but you can see Tail with a bevy of different champions, to use one of your little phrases there. Papa Smithy has been hopping on the Lucian as well, so a little bit similar to that of Vasily.
And with the Kassadin falling away, let me moving towards the tanks. It's all about the 2 carries. It's all about Xiaohu and Tail, and they kind of interchange for carry performances. As Sync Dream, your personal favorite player in the LPL, never really know what he's going to pull out.
Yeah, and is he going to be building another Sheen on Sona? I have to admit, I lost a little bit of the love when that came through.
The Archangel's Sheen.
The Archangel's Sheen was
so much synergy.
Bit of an odd one. Where's the synergy?
Mana scaling on the Archangels. Come on now.
That's true. Yep, mana scaling. And, of course, has a lot of AP. Didn't quite make it to the Lichbane.
Didn't quite peel for a Cogmore with the burst damage of the Archangels and the Sheen.
Oh, Sync Dream. Forever hilarious. But unable to quite take that victory, you have to think, as Tail was a bit confused about what his support player was doing. But we'll see whether they can pull it out this time, because Gamty, they have an opportunity to make their run for the playoffs, and we'll see whether they can actually make it through. Letme has shown some fantastic performances. Huey got a pentakill at 7 minutes, which I tend to bring up every single time, but it was absolutely amazing. And Xiaohu, he's had some phenomenal performances in the mid lane. And against Hetong, who has been very consistent recently, but has picked up some pretty interesting heroes. And that Cho'Gath, we'll see whether Xiaohu's going to have an answer to it.
And just to finish off the point about Gamty, their issue is that, again, playoffs are fast approaching. We're in the last 3 weeks of the season. A point is not enough for them. They need those 3-point pickups, and they can't afford to wait much longer because there's only so many games left in the season.
Yeah, well, that's true. And having a look over the Vici lineup now, of course, Carry playing almost anything there in the top lane. That Riven not quite working out, but the Diana,
deadly.
Super exciting to watch.
Absolutely. The Diana was definitely the cornerstone of the comp they ran Dandy, always been reliable. Rek'Sai, Nidalee, where appropriate, even throwing in a Hecarim Gim. We're still on patch 5.4. Still going to be a lot more of the Rek'Sai, Nidalee, you'd have to think, coming out of Dandy.
Oh yeah, lots of that Rek'Sai, Nidalee, and of course Rek'Sai going to be very contested across these two junglers as Dandy has stopped playing the Jarvan just a little bit over the last few games. And let's have a look at Hotong. I do like to look back at his Lissandra games because Hotong has been brilliant on that champion.
I mean, he was very consistent as champion, but another one of those Azir, Xerath, Lissandra players. We wondered, what is he going to bring out on 5.4, and exploded out the gates with the Cho'Gath. I was actually so disappointed that we only saw 2 games out of Vici last week because they came so innovative out the gate, and then we haven't seen them in a week. Vasily likes the lane bullies, tried the Twitch, definitely didn't work on that champion. Expect him to ape a bit of Forgiven's playstyle and go back to the Lucian Graves where possible.
Yeah, of course, really does excel on those mid-range bursty AD carries as Mata. Yeah, he likes playing Thresh, that guy. Definitely.
He's had another week to think about the fine that came through last week. That was
He'll
very
never
fresh
live that
topic.
down, will he? Oh my goodness. I'm actually a little bit upset that we didn't see the Jace support though, because
there's still time, Atlas.
Soon, maybe we'll have the Lee Sin this game. That could be exciting. Of course, those safeguard shields with a lot of extra shielding with the AP.
Yeah, build a bit of AP, you know, just synergy.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Hey, you could build a Sheen on that, couldn't you?
I guess you could, Atlas.
You're not going to utilize any of the mana, but I mean, that proc going to be pretty good for some damage in lane, eh, Papa Smithy?
But it was great to see Vici Gaming shake off, you know, the kind of hurrah, the furor that came out of the result in the Demacia Cup against IG, then rematch against IG and look very convincing in taking them down. It wasn't quite the tour, because remember, that was the huge performance from Cacao and Nidalee in late-game team fights that won them that game, but looked very impressive, showed strategic versatility on a team that looked pretty consistent, but like out of fresh ideas for 7 weeks. Came in week 8, new patch, new ideas, loved the Cho'Gath Diana comp. I just want to see more new things coming out from Vici, just to show that when they hit the playoffs, which at this point they're pretty safe to make at least the top 8, that they're going to be able to kind of unsettle these top teams in the league.
Yeah, we'll see whether they can do that, because of course they are a top team here. They have shown that they can take games off even the highest skill level, and we'll see whether when the playoffs come around that they are going to be able to bring it to effect. As we have a look at the fine graph, of course 50-50 somehow, not entirely sure where Gamty managed to get theirs from, but Mata definitely carrying his team on that front for Vici.
And that yellow circle actually indicates the win rate when they pick Lee Sin support a lot smaller than their normal season win rate.
A little bit unfortunate as opposed to the Sheen win rate. Of course, both rather small, but the Sheen win rate a little bit higher.
What can you do?
Yeah, you can't really do all of that much, especially not when you have no idea what the graph is actually about, as our lineups are going to be displayed for you just there. And we're going to be hopping into Champion Select very soon. And Gamty looking to try and answer back, and we'll see whether they actually manage to pull out the 2-0, because it's so important. A lot of these points have been lost into the nether of nothingness because these teams have been tying so often.
And it's especially been those teams around the 3rd to 5th to 6th spot, drawing every game. There hasn't been a lot of movement in terms of the placements at 3rd to 6th, so Vici picking up 3 points would be massive for them. Gamty, they need the 3 points to have a realistic shot at playoffs, so definitely looking towards the 2-0, but we still got a champion slate to get through.
Yeah, exactly, and bans already coming through thick and fast. Double jungler ban straight out of the gate with Nidalee and Rek'Sai hitting the bench, and then Thresh being aimed at Mata there. Sync Dream doesn't mind. He never even wants to play any of these conventional supports. He just wants to play Sona and build a Sheen.
And absolutely. And now with the strongest junglers on patch 5.4 banned, we're going to see the jungle pools go a little bit closer to the well. Will they go towards the Vi? There's other picks that are still relatively strong on this patch, but the gold standard has definitely been Nidalee and Rek'Sai.
Yeah, and Jarvan, of course, Huey has been picking that one up just recently. We'll see whether that one is going to be going into his hands or whether Vici are going to pick that one up if it's not first picked. And we'll see what the priorities are here for these teams on the 5.4 patch.
So yeah, we're still waiting to see LeBlanc actually ban. We've seen a lot of blind pick LeBlanc, so banning away LeBlanc just for a bit of safety. And Rengar, another jungle ban coming through. I guess targeted at Dandy. We haven't seen a lot of Dandy's Rengar, but maybe this is what he's been tending towards in the scrims recently.
And I find it interesting because taking away sort of the ever-popular Cho'Gath that Xiaohu hasn't tried his hand at just yet, hasn't come through, and we'll see whether that is part of Gamty's plan, as Maokai is going to hit the bench. Let me not going to be on that super tank that he's been favoring over the last couple of games. And now Gamty with first pick. It is going to be the Jarvan, so a lot of priority here on the jungle, and Vici have their chance to answer.
Haven't seen a lot of Gnar. That's the current picture. It's actually locked in instantly coming through from Vici. So Carrier will taking the Gnar into the top lane. I believe he has a very high win rate on this champion. They picked Janna, so they haven't necessarily shown their hand. There's no rush towards the Cho'Gath. Nidalee and Thresh, with 2 cornerstones of that comp, have been banned away from Gamti. Could understand the Ezreal pickup for sure.
Yeah, Xiaohu looking at picking that one up again. Huey cycling through some champions here. And do you think Lissandra is going to be a high priority pickup here?
It just, interestingly, even on 5.4, the moment we moved to this patch, it's just not been a lot of Lissandra play. People have been moving away from that champion, despite the fact that it's so regular, despite the fact that there was no targeted changes towards Lissandra. On patch 5.5, of course, her Q damage has been reduced, so maybe on 5.5 becomes less of the split-pushing, high-farming champion. But Ezreal and Morgana are the lock-ins. Of course, the very flexible pick of Ezreal for either the mid lane or the AD carry.
Oh my goodness, and Dandy, he's gone back to the Nunu here as well. This is going to be exciting. Of course, not 5.5 just yet, so not going to have that Cinder Hulk to really rush around that jungle, but still a dominating force as we've seen displayed by Beast many a time. And with that Graves hover, it's looking like we might be having an Ezreal mid lane yet again.
And it's good that you mentioned Beast. He was the one who catapulted himself onto the scene, out-jungling a Jarvan with Nunu and then actually doing the reverse matchup. He's so comfortable on this champion. Very high win rate. I believe he's 8-2, maybe an 8-1 on the jungle Nunu. And it's going to be interesting to see how Dandy can pull it off. He's also been consistent. We haven't seen it since the early weeks. He moved away from the Sightstone junglers for a bit more of a carry flavor of jungler, but goes back to it now.
Yeah, this is an interesting lineup now formed for Gamti. That looks like Letme's going to pick up the Lulu there in the top lane. No real hyper carries. It's not like your Juggernaut flavor of the last game that came through from Snake, but definitely an interesting pickup. And Lulu has been seeing a whole lot more priority and made it through to the last pickup here for Gamti.
It's going to be Lulu or Morgana mid, that's for sure. And that's opening up potentially a Twisted Fate. Not that much lane solo pressure. Definitely no assassins coming in. It's risky to port away from a Lulu, especially with all her wave clear, but it would be the crown jewel you'd have to think of this Vici comp.
Yeah, well, it's true. And I mean, of course, probably not the mid lane because you'd expect Xiaohu to be taking the Ezreal there. And we'll see whether it's going to be the Morgana top, which Flandre has made popular. Because I could imagine Syncdream wouldn't mind playing that one in the bottom lane, but it is going to be Lulu top. Let me taking that one up against Carry. They're switching them back and forth, though. And I just don't know. Don't want to make the prediction, as hasn't been quite locked in yet. And after 7 seconds, that's when we'll actually know what's going to be going on. And you guys won't. We'll let you know, though, if it does actually get locked in, just to make sure. Because, yes, it is confirmed. Morgana in the top lane, and Syncdream going to be taking the Lulu into the bottom lane.
So there's only a few targets realistically for this Twisted Fate to gank. Very hard to gank a Morgana with Black Shield. You know, the gold card going to be largely negated by that cooldown. In terms of the mid lane matchup, we'll get to it soon though. In the top lane, Gnar does a lot of physical damage, so Morgana definitely not going to be able to use the Black Shield to too much effectiveness then. Expect the Gnar to push him in early.
Yeah, is Gnar going to be able to equalize that lane? Oh, is Morgana, sorry, going to be able to equalize that lane against Gnar though?
It's possible. I mean, there might even be a lane swap coming through. Morgana more comfortable in a 1v1 matchup. The mid lane matchup is super interesting to me because I expect Ezreal to bully around the short range Twisted Fate in the early laning phase. And as we always say, the first Destiny, it could definitely decide the tone of this game.
Yeah, and I guess Syncdream picking up this Lulu is going to be quite helpful for when that Destiny comes through. You'd land and then immediately get polymorphed and dealt with, and if he doesn't manage to get his stun card off immediately, things could be a little bit difficult as far as that gank is concerned.
And tools to deal with the Twisted Fate in every lane. Black Shield, Ezreal has Cleanse, and the Lulu. It's going to be a hard laning phase for Hetong.
Yeah, and we'll see whether Hetong can actually make that Destiny work and whether it is going to be on Vici to try and create skirmishes around the map. Is that a thing that they're going to have to be doing here just to try and create pressure, create opportunities? But, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to find out as we hop onto the Rift. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, with Gamti taking on Vici for our second match of the LPL for this week. Dandy is just spinning around here on the Nunu bot. He's going to find Huey there as well. Letme might be in trouble. There's the stun card to come down. Beautiful boomerang as well. Gets knocked up. Easiest first blood of their lives go to Vici, and Letme just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
And it was definitely a fight to see who would get the kill credit. Ends up going to Gnar. Gnar started the longsword, so we'll have quite a bit of gold left over. I believe about 420 gold after the first blood comes through. Going to be a comfortable laning phase for sure for Carry.
Yeah, but Carry not going to be able to quite buy that Null Magic Mantle, but boots could come through, and it is going to be a ruby crystal, actually. So already so much more tanky than you'd expect from this mini Gnar in the top lane. And Letme's just made it very hard for himself.
So they have complete vision over the enemy blue side jungle, but it looks like because of the timers and the going back, they will not be going for the vertical jungling. It looks like the result will be 2v2 laning and entering lane with a ruby crystal advantage. So safe is carrying the top lane.
Yeah, and it's going to be very difficult for Letme to be able to assert control of that lane. Difficult for Morgana anyway. They're going to be exceptionally so at this stage, as Carry just going to help Dandy out here at the beginning of these Krogs. And both junglers going to be doing exactly the same thing. And as far as how this has worked out in the early game, who do you think it suits moving forward?
I mean, you have to mention First Blood is obviously going to be suiting Vici and any team picking up the First Blood. The other small thing to note is that Vasily actually took both small golems from the blue, so has a significant experience advantage in bottom as well. So it's not enough just to have an item advantage in the bot lane. They're going to have an experience advantage. Sorry, item advantage in the top lane. They're going to have an experience advantage in the bottom lane as well.
Yeah, Letme actually dodging out of the way of that boomerang, getting a fair bit of damage back here onto Carry, as Vasily going very aggressive now that they've hit that level 2, and this is what you're talking about. The fact that he managed to get the extra experience from those little golems has really allowed Vici to be so aggressive here on the bottom side.
And this is what suits Vici. We always talk about the fact that this team looks like a different team when Vasily wins lane. They're able to aggressively rotate and pick up the outer range out of rung of turrets. That's their usual game plan, and picking up level 2 so early is just going to facilitate that. Vasily already playing so confidently in this skill matchup against Graves.
Yeah, and we'll see whether, you know, getting that level 2 for our Ganti lineup is going to help them as far as staying competitive in that lane, but Sync Dream already took a whole lot of damage, had to use a whole bunch of those biscuits in order to keep himself safe. As Marta just doing some zoning here against the members of Ganti, still level 1.
Still level 1, but there's no real big penalty to pay for that. At this point, Vasily has complete reign of the lane in bottom. And so the extra experience on the AD carry, honestly, is a bigger factor than any experience coming onto Marta. Ping's level 3 now.
Yeah, does have that one under his belt. But Tail, he went back to base, picked up some extra consumables, but nothing much else. Huey now extremely low, did manage to pick up that Rift Scuttler there over the top side, as Tail now finally managing to get a little bit of experience and some gold from these creeps. As Dandy, he started off the Dragon already.
Well, I mean, Gumty have no lane presence whatsoever, already shopped once. The minion wave pushed under the turret. Dandy can already tank the Dragon for a long time. Eventually, Vasily will rotate. Not at the moment, though. He's happy to just push the lane 1v2. They have to respect him, and it might just be a duo on Dragon.
Yeah, or just a solo here, as Dandy's just happily eating it over and over again, and he should actually be fine. And first Dragon taken at 4.5 minutes. That is a big deal here for Vici, and they're going to get it. Level 3 Dandy. Oh, 13 health. There it is.
Almost the fadeaway smite not being quite enough health, but he does pick it up, Dandy, with a very early Dragon. So flexible is the build path, and even just the gank path, or just neutral in this case, the Dragon pickup coming through from a Nunu. Ping's level 3, very happy, goes back to base, and Vici, they've dominated the first 5 minutes of this game, all off the back of picking up that early kill on Letme.
Yeah, the early kill and the early experience to come down. Of course, Vasily probably didn't get too much out of that first blood, but still was able to dominate his lane.
I mean, it's the experience that he picked up both from the kill assist credit, but more importantly from the small golems from blue. It's one of those camps that people don't expect. Usually if you enter lane late, they're like, okay, they got experience from the Gromp. They can factor that in, but you can get the experience from those little blue golems so much quicker. They actually went for 2 rather than just the 1, so for the bigger burst of experience rather than just the little bit of experience. And they abused the surprise level 2 power spike very well. So lane control for Vasily Marta been excellent in the bottom lane.
Yeah, and Yahoo has finally shopped. He's picked up that tier as his first item. Has the boots there as well as Satong. He's going to go back as well just to complement that boot pickup. And Tail able to shove through this wave as Vasily did go back to base. Picked up a pickaxe. And Tail now going to do the same, most likely, as he heads back to shop as well.
Able to go for a very selfish first purchase here as Twisted Fate. Usually we see Twisted Fates forced to pick up a couple of Dorans because they have very low base stats and then work their way towards maybe cooldown reduction. But just picking up a Sheen. Ezreal, he's gone for a tier. So because you're against a laner who hasn't picked up any big combat stats, you don't have to respect any assassination from, say, an any mid or Morgana, even with the Soul Shackles, can be very strong against Twisted Fate in the mid lane. because it's a tier, you can go Sheen. Of course, it helps you clear waves. It helps you with the mana control. It's a good pickup just because you're not being pressured by the AD Ezreal mid.
And you can see Sync Dream there starting to roam around, get some deep vision here on the map. Has cleared out a ward with that pink towards their mid lane as well, around those Raptors. And having some very early super defensive vision come down from Gamty means that they can already feel the pressure.
Well, they need to get vision around the mid lane because you just need to see which part of the lane Twisted Fate is tending toward. Is he walking towards the top? Is he walking towards the bottom? Of course, that will give early information as to where the first Destiny will be going down. He's level 6. He's level 6 at a very good clip, and they need to help out Xiaohu and give him some scouting vision. But speaking of helping out Xiaohu...
Yeah, not going to be able to quite land the knock up there, but there's the E towards him as Let Me comes round as well. True Shot Barrage would have got the kill, but Hatong just sidesteps it nimbly, and he'll be okay.
And importantly, only had to use his Ghost, managed to live with Flash available, very steady on that cooldown for the... to respect to the True Shot Barrage. Now when the wraparound gank comes with the Cataclysm at level 6, we'll still have the Flash available. So just buy time instead of just staying alive in the mid lane.
Ooh, Tail has to be careful here as Vasily with a lot of trade damage. Glitterlant's not going to find him there as Sync Dream actually has a fair bit of damage himself as this Lulu. Beautiful piercing light from Vasily showing his mastery over Lucian as the trades continue here on this bottom side. Marta going aggressive down here as well as Tail takes a lot of damage. Nice polymorph to come through from Sync Dream, but that is for the disengage. As Gamty, they have to respect these Vici members down bottom. I
mean, they have to respect Vasily. Just pinged level 6 during that trade. That's why they chose the timing for the trade. Had to respect the culling damage is going to be very, very high at these early levels. In terms of items, very even between the AD carries. In fact, in terms of gold, only 100 gold. Vasily wants to go in again.
Yeah, there's the culling coming through as well. Sync Dream forced to use the flashes. The heal comes down at the same time. Tail and Sync Dream under so much strain in this bottom side. And Vasily making it show on the CS count here as well, as we might have a Destiny game coming through. Hatong hasn't actually ported in. There he is. Finds Huey as Tail. He is in no man's land. Marta takes a whole lot of damage. Carries come down as well. Tail gets bopped. And that's the second kill of the game for Carry and the third for Vici.
5-man stack, probably a bit unnecessary to be honest. Xiaohu, of course, as an AD carry, can push in aggressively. We'll get at least half the turret down in mid lane. No dragon to pick up, and they will pick up the turret though. So that's the important thing. If they hadn't picked up the structure, wouldn't have been worth the commit. But Morgana, slow to counter push. Not maxing outright her Tormented Soul, only 3 points in that ability. So not much turret damage to answer in the top lane.
Yeah, not quite that much. And how do these teams stack up in the later stage of the game, Papa Smithy? Because Gamty falling behind now, if they're a late game scaling comp, it will be okay. And having double AD here, even though they're both short range, does that help them out?
I mean, double AD in the late game's never ideal, but you look down the comps, you'd have to say it's fairly even across the board. Twisted Fate, there's so many answers to Twisted Fate. The Lulu, the Cleanse, the Morgana, Black Shield. It's going to be difficult for Twisted Fate to have a team fight impact in the late game. I mean, you say that, and Twisted Fate obviously is such a high skill cap champion. So much can happen with their champion. And in terms of split pushing with a Nunu, probably could get some work done in that situation. I mean, Xiaohu's already shown his prowess on the AD Ezreal mid. It's only a single, it's going to be a dual tank lineup, so will he be able to power through Dandy and carry in the late game? I mean, item timers will kind of tell the tale. I'd give the advantage to Vici, but it's a minimal advantage. Definitely work that Gamty can do in the late game.
Yeah, and I apologize to Carry here as well. I said that it was his second kill of the game. He's actually picked up all 3 of them as well as he grabbed Sync Dream down the bottom side at the same time as Hatong now looking to make something happen down bottom side. Destiny not available just yet, just going to get some extra vision.
Yeah, so he keeps pushing in aggressively. Starting to build a CS advantage now. You can see Lulu and Graves have to hold. You can see on the minimaps hold so far back with no turret to walk back to. No turret against the Destiny. Not much more scary things in League of Legends. So much global pressure. This will also open up another dragon. I think with all the chaos and the threat of the Twisted Fate ultimate, you just have to seed these early advantages, and that's going to result in the dragon.
Yeah, and Dandy with so much control over that as well with the consume. There's not a lot of opportunity to steal that one away. And as you mentioned, just going to get seeded here to Dandy yet again. So Vici 2-0 on the dragon counter.
I mean, the point we always raise about Twisted Fate is that it really empowers your jungler to play aggressively. You can always contest enemy buffs because you know that Twisted Fate with the Destiny will be the first person to rotate. Vici, they don't want to face check. It's against Huey, but it is a 2v3 outnumbered situation.
Yeah, Vasily Coming around, utilizing the fact that he has a lot of flat attack damage to try and take down this outer turret in the mid lane. The rest of Gamti are rotating through, though. You can see Tail and Sync Dream heading up there as well just to defend this one out. So probably not going to find the outer turret just yet. There are a couple of members sitting in this brush. Gamti looking to try and make something happen. Dandy, he might be caught, gets knocked up. True Shot Barrage, that was so much burst as the Cataclysm comes through. And Gamti, it pays off.
Absolutely. I mean, True Shot Barrage has a 350 base damage to the first target hit, so instantly killed the already fairly tanky Dandy. He goes back and picks up some items. Double Sightstone. You know these aggressive wards are going to start coming, but if they can pick up their third round of buffs off the back of Dandy being dead and not being in position for the spawn of at least their third red buff, that's at least something for Gamti. Because when they lost that bottom turret against the Twisted Fate, there was a really real situation, as we see Hatong coming in quite aggressively, but there was a very real possibility that they would have no control over their red side jungle for the remainder of the game.
Yeah, it's true. And Mata, he's going to find that pink ward there as well. Or is he, as he gets a lot of extra vision down here. Huey waiting in the wings is around that blue buff as Yahoo's just going to clear out this ward here. And Mata not wanting to hang around too long to pick up that pink carry, as Mega Gnar might be able to offer him some assistance though.
And Twisted Fate already beginning the split push, despite not having a Lich Bane, despite having no big item pickups. Actually picks up the CDR boots, so wants a very quick 40% CDR. Probably going to be plenty of Destiny usage this game. No Distortion boots either, despite the Flash Ghost pickup. That's usually going to be the early boot enchant, just to have so much extra mobility. But between the Destiny and the Ghost Flash, you're expecting a lot of gank pressure to come out of Hatong.
Yeah, and is that Sheen then sort of showing itself as more of an opportunistic buy rather than the standard? Because, of course, Morellonomicon plus Lucidity Boots is just such a great combo here for these mid laners.
You see a lot of pressure coming onto the mid tower. I definitely agree with you, Atlas. As I said, you wouldn't pick up a Sheen against a burst mid laner. You'd have to pick some Dorans for some effective health and mana regen. I think it was just, again, had the right amount of gold, buying it, looking to get a Lich Bane. Like, the moment you get Sheen, you're priced into Lich Bane, you're priced into split pushing, because that's what Lich Bane does the best at, because you're delaying either CDR or the Zhonya's effectively by starting up with the early Sheen and potentially Lich Bane. If he keeps it as Sheen and moves towards those other items, it just might have been a snowball buy.
Yeah, and speaking of snowballs, the outer turret is going to fall down. Dandy giving that Blood Boil over to Vasily here as well for a lot of extra damage. And it just looks like Vici, another day in the office here, moving around the map, picking up the objectives as they see fit. And Gamti, they've got to start making something happen, start changing things up. Otherwise, this game is just going to continue getting out of control.
But, I mean, Atlas, they picked Ezreal mid. You're not really in a position to contest for early rotations. When you pick a champion that starts tier that has so little lane control after the first few levels, at Doran's Blade versus a Doran Ring, Twisted Fate, or Boots, as was the start, absolutely you can run that lane. But the first buy, you build mana. That's the only stat you're picking up. Maybe just a longsword. You can't control lane after that situation. They've got a Morgana to counter push in top. So at least Morgana's kept her turret alive. It's not the 3 outer turrets that Vici always like to aim for. But they haven't really picked a comp to deal with the mid game. And it's going to be Twisted Fate and a Nunu in your jungle. And Gamti, this is trying to lose the minimum and then wait for that Muramana Trinity Force power spike that Xiao has played so well around in his previous performances on Ezreal.
Oh my goodness, that was so incredibly close as the True Shot Barrage doesn't manage to pick up the blue buff that Xiao was wanting to secure for himself. He's going to go over to Huey there, so that's fairly important here because you can imagine Xiao pretty keen to pick up that blue.
But you can see that Vici Gaming are not keen to opt into fights. Lich Bane Twisted Fate as a rush does decent single target damage, but it's best used for split pushing. That's why Morgana's rotated the bot lane. Still has teleport, but you don't really want to be team fighting as Twisted Fate until you pick up that massive Zhonya so that you can go for the Messiah-esque engage options.
Yeah, that's why it seems a little bit interesting that he's gone so heavily for this on-hit build to come through from Hatong, but like you mentioned, does work out very well for the split push. I don't know. I like the Morellonomicon.
And although Morgana's stopping the split push in the inner turret, there's nobody answering just a straight push from carrying the top turret. So it will be the third turret coming down eventually as Graves starts to rotate top. They're still creating global pressure, even if not getting massive objectives in terms of inner turrets. It should be this outer turret. Don't know what Teo can really do to stop carry picking it up.
Yeah, Teo wants to try and do something here, but unable to get to that turret in time. And he's going to be able to pick up a creep wave, but that's about all she wrote. As Carry has got to be careful here. He's seen the fact that Let Me is moving up, but he is going to back away. And Vici now know that there are quite a few members there on the top side of the map, and It's going to mean Hatong continues the split.
But it all looks perfect from Vici Gaming. This is textbook early gameplay from Vici Gaming. Look at the aggressive line of wards all over the red side jungle and to some extent the top of the blue side jungle of Gamti, pushing in waves. The pressure in bottom lane from Hatong buys time for Carry to pick up the top turret. In the mid lane, Vasily was actually out-trading Xiaohu in terms of damage, so every lane being pushed in, already prepping the third dragon with a Nunu to kind of secure it. They're just layers upon layers of buffs being picked up, and Gamti, they're just watching this game being played in front of them.
Yeah, they really are. Huey is going to find out the fact that this dragon has respawned. Carry was going to be backing in that top side, has teleport available as well. You have to make sure that we remember that one because he can come in at a moment's notice. Doesn't have a lot on that Nabar as Hatong continues to split. Destiny's available at the same time. Theoretically, a couple of teleports available. Now Carry makes his way towards this dragon, and Gamti, they've seeded this inner turret in the bottom side because they want to be here for the dragon siege, but Vici just playing this so beautifully. Carry, he's getting collapsed on the bounce. Not going to find it, but Meganar is going to be here at a moment's notice. Collateral damage tickles him. And Vici, Carry just weathering that entire storm.
Yeah, Carry takes a lot of free DPS, but he already has a Randuin's and also the Chain Vest. Vici turn onto the dragon. You could tell Gamti do not want to give away this objective.
No, and they've got a lot of cooldowns now down on the side of Gamti. It is going to be easily secured by Dandy here as there's the absolute zero. Huey a little bit squishy here as Carry bounces over, gets the hyper. There's the Cataclysm, and Hatong just destroys Huey. Beautiful Monsoon from Mata to split up the team. Let me trying to play disengage with the Soul Shackles as Mata takes a lot of damage. Xiao who picks up that kill. Carry trying to just back in the middle of nowhere as Gamti. They do trade 1-for-1. But the dragon again goes to Vici. That's their third.
It could have been so much worse though, Atlas. The Flash Monsoon initiation from Mata was on point, but Vasily used the Relentless Pursuit back over the dragon while Hatong was low mana, so perhaps it was smart to back away. Gamti, they get a lot of damage onto this outer turret. Probably will get it. Vasily's playing aggressively though.
Yeah, Sync Dream actually going to take a turret bolt here as well as Xiao who tries to go 1-for-1, but he's not going to be able to. As that is so much burst damage. The crits that come down with just the Infinity Edge.
And you know what word I'm going to say. He's been, man, that was a lot of critical strikes. An earlier trade, he got a double critical strike with the passive bolts and then gets a whole load of crits. Almost horribly misjudged by Gamti, but you have to respect the 20% crit from Vasily in this game.
Oh, the RNG gods are smiling at Vasily this day, most definitely, as Hatong going to be able to clear out a decent wave here on this bottom side. And look at the amount of split push protection he has from Vision here. We've spoken about this many, many times over the LPL. The Mata and Dandy show of Vision control
It's been a
really
while
working.
In terms of the double sidestone though, Atlas. The double sidestone's being rocked and it's been used so well. We've seen games where teams have double sidestone and still people are getting caught off in their jungle. But in the enemy jungle, they've had near complete vision and they've played around the Twisted Fate pick perfectly. Lichbane Twisted Fate, we said, all right, well, he has to split push. He doesn't have a team fight build. And man, he's been so easy to split push with complete wards. He's got an inner turret. Huey, you might be able to track down Hatong now, but he's got the flash available.
Yeah, Cataclysm's going to be there. He is going to get a free flash for it, and of course takes a lot of damage.
And Let Me was teleporting onto the flag. Has to cancel that teleport. That's another cooldown lost.
Yeah, maybe just didn't think that he had that flash available. As Vici going to steal away a blue buff here as well. Tail has to be very careful as flashes away from a potential Gnar to come down from Carry.
It was a counter flash. It was respecting the potential for the flash Gnar into the wall. Flash wasn't actually available for Carry, and now it's not available for Tail.
Yeah, and Tail, I guess, you know, the bounce could have been there as well. I don't know. Carry with a lot of pressure just from being so huge and having so much of that crowd control. And don't think I didn't notice that you said rocking the Sightstone, because that is just brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. I just need to make sure I give you props.
Twisted Fate still doesn't have the Zonias. Went back, picked up Distortion Boots. That's a very important, integral part of his early game kit. The Zonias will make Vici more likely to opt into team fights, but for now, the split push will continue. Let Me misfiring on the teleport, then cancelling it. Actually is another strategic hold that Vici, they've been so on form in the early game, you have to think they'll exploit that and just keep up with the split push. Keep aggressively split pushing bottom, because there's no one to answer the Twisted Fate split push.
Although Xiaohu does almost have the Trinity Force, is him hitting that power spike going to be meaningful here for Gamti?
I mean, if they can opt into a team fight, but at this point, Vici are completely running the map. What can Gamti force an objective around? They can answer the next dragon, but there might be a Zonia's pickup coming through from Hetong to negate that Trinity Force pickup. So absolutely, if this was an even game, Trinity Force, Mana Moon, soon to be Mirror Mana, massive power jump for Xiaohu, and he's already shown his prowess on that mid-Ezreal, as we mentioned, was 23-3-16 play last time out. It's just this game. I mean, Gamti had no say in basically anything that's happened in 21 minutes.
Yeah, well, it's true. And Vasily, 0-0-4, 100% kill participation. Carry, though, 3-0-1. Now has Randuin's and a Thornmail against double AD. And when all of your damage is physical, basically. I mean, of course, you do a bit of mixed damage as an Ezreal, and Let Me is going sort of as a damage Morgana build, but my goodness, no one's really going to be able to burst through carry at all.
I mean, you can't burst through a carry that has 9,100 gold at this point. 6,500 is Morgana. Just to give you an idea of the lane matchup. He has the most gold on the team, and he's used it for a snowball Thornmail against double AD. This game, man, life support already for Gamti.
That's exactly right, and has a lot of health as well to augment the fact that he's got that Thornmail on top of it. Of course, Thornmail doesn't work as well if you don't have the health pool to back it up, which is why you don't see it as a first item, but he's got the Phage. He's got an extra Ruby Crystal and a Randuin's. He's got plenty.
And the power spike is massive, though, for Xiaohu. 22 minutes is a very early Mirror Mana. Has the Trinity Force. It's a lot of damage there, but the Zhonya's is picked up by Twisted Fate. That's an answering power spike. That gives them the flexibility to look for a team fight. And Gamti, they'll be like, all right, we've hit the power spike. It's the time to pull the trigger. You feel like Vici have the answers, as they've had for the first 25 minutes.
And does it rely on Gamti getting wresting control of the vision around their own jungle and finding picks when Vici are overextending here because they feel like they've got too much control? Because it seems to me that this game relies on Vici making a mistake on the side of Gamti.
I can definitely follow your logic. And look, they've done a good job of clearing out the wards. You can see it's a bit more barren for Vici in terms of aggressive wards in the Gamti red side jungle. But Huey, who's definitely not been snowballed, has fallen behind down. He has had to go Sidestone, doesn't have a lot of combat stats, has the Warrior enchant versus the Juggernaut that we see from Dandy. He's had to move away from teamfight stats, and the only person who's really teamfight ready is Xiaohu, and to a lesser extent Tail on the Graves, just because Graves scales so well with flat AD that doesn't really matter that he's a static shift versus Zeal down. You just feel like the front line's not strong enough. Let Me doesn't have a big item like the Zhonya's to be able to dive the back line, and now with Zhonya's completed on her tongue, look, they're going to opt towards this dragon, but will Vici actually look to give it up?
Yeah, they're doing a lot of damage here. Is Syncdream going to flash away from that one? It is going to be secured by Huey as everyone tries to get over the wall. Huey, though, he doesn't have the flag or the dragon. Syncdream gets destroyed on the backside. Dark Binding not going to find Vasily either.
And all this time, look who's on the minimap. They're going to lose another inner turret. The turrets are going so quickly. And Vici get an exit kill, give away just the first dragon, and take out an inner turret. They're winning out on every trade.
Oh, Xiaohu might have found Marty here as well. Lots of damage to come down from this Ezreal. Doesn't quite have the Arcane Shift back off cooldown. And is going to give up on that because, of course, not a lot of vision. Tails found carry Xiaohu. Is he going to aggressively Arcane Shift? He is.
Then notices the items.
Yeah, notices the items and realizes that he's probably going to do more damage to himself as a carry.
Yeah, now he's even got an extra Giant's Belt to just amplify the health pickups. Vasily keeps split pushing in mid. There's just no good choices for Gamti, unfortunately, Atlas. They lose a turret every time they look for engage. They feel good about picking up a first dragon with a very assertive move, but the Destiny answers their presence. They lose an exit kill. They lose an outer turret. They've managed to wrestle back war control. That was the minimum thing they could do in the blue side jungle. Now they're losing out on, in the red side jungle. Now they're losing out in the blue side jungle. It just feels like Vici. This is the Vici that we know, the true and tried and tested. If they can push and get those first 3 outer turrets, they're so good at kind of finishing out a game.
Yeah, and this isn't really a game where it's sort of been the fights going in the wrong way for either team. This has been Vici strategically outplaying Gamti at almost every turn.
And that's the Vici that comes out when they get those outer turrets. That's the Vici that comes out when Vasily wins lane. It feels like then the Korean style of vision starvation that Dandy and Mata put out is effective. And that's why we've seen Vasily move away from the Tristana hypercarry champion pool he was using the first 3 weeks towards the lane dominating Lucian Graves pickups that he's definitely been favoring since, because they play around a fed, strong, early game AD carry so well. This is not a style of League of Legends we see so often in the LPL. You only see it when Vici are winning or when EDG are really rotating and playing their game. And look, you can't really argue. A massive goal lead, 9,000 goal lead at 26 minutes in a 7-kill game. That's the big factor.
Yeah.
We see killer-minute games like they're going out of fashion. Almost every game of the night can be a killer game night in the LPL. But 7 kills in 26 minutes is very, very low for LPL standards.
Yeah, and it just shows how incredibly controlled Vici have been throughout this game. They haven't let Gamty get in and start any fights that they want to start, and Vici rotating around the map, picking up exactly what they want and not overextending.
And that's the weird thing. We do sometimes see low-kill games, but they're low-kill stalemates. This has not been a stalemate in terms of objectives.
Yeah.
Landslide objective advantage for Vici.
And already the alacrity enchant on the boots here for Vasily. He wants to be walking around as quickly as possible. Of course, already has that 3rd dragon buff as well. Vici are heading around this Baron area now, and they have a lot of Baron damage, you have to remember.
And they've got a Nunu as well, so the Blood Bowl going to make him even faster. Only a point in the Blood Bowl, been focusing on the consume for objective control and just the snowball as a standard pickup, but I mean, everything's looking good. The split push continues in bottom. Still, Let Me doesn't have teleport. Feels like he's been missing out on teleport during a lot of these split push engages. And they need to react to all the map pressure being applied by Vici.
Yeah, and it seems that Carry is going to be the one answered by multiple team members. Very, very necessary as Hatong is just going to be Let Me to meet him in that bottom side. Black Shield going to very much help against that gold card that's going to be coming down. And Hatong decides that he wants to head back towards mid. Clear out this pink ward at the same time on the way through. And possibly even continue as he sees that the minion line started to conquer up once more, and Twisted Fate continues the split. Vasily now down here as well. They're just clearing out vision. And we're going to talk about this all game, aren't we, really? It's just the fact that Vici just looks so good when it comes to vision control when they're ahead.
And there's just so few resources for Gamty to get back in the game. Even their Krugs and Raptors are being stolen away as the pink wards start to be cleared out. You just feel like at some point Vici is just going to pull the trigger, take the Baron, maybe even just look for the 5th dragon. Gamty getting on the dragon board at least removes 1 win condition, which could have been, at this point, like a 39, 35, 36-minute dragon, a 5th dragon coming through. But Baron, they've had basically the run of the dragon for a lot of this game. Lucian's just freshly shopped. 3-item Lucian, so team fight ready, and then some is the Lucian. Everything just keeps piling up. The items, the vision, everything looks good for Vici. And barring another Xiaohu special, an amazing team fight play when he picks up his last Whisper, which he does have enough gold to pick up. So it will be a 3-item AD Ezreal from the mid lane, which Xiaohu's already shown a lot of proficiency on, but it might be too little too late.
Yeah, and Carry's sitting on 2,000 gold here as well, on top of what he already has. You have to think that a Warmogs could be coming through. He might be going towards a Banshee's Veil potentially, but of course with that Giant Spell, probably not going to be the option, as it could even be a Sunfire Cape as that Chain Vest is just sitting there hanging out. Huey not going to be found by that Howling Gale, and there's a lot of vision control there in that brush, but he's just going to flag and drag himself to safety and does still retain his flash.
And with the fact that Twisted Fate's no longer in the bottom, and you know that Vici are looking to pick up the Baron. They're still baiting for it present. They can always pop the Destiny if they need to. There's the Scrying Orb that's been drawn out. No war coverage whatsoever. Vici should have their engage options, or they might even go for an aggressive push in the top lane.
Yeah, just noticing the fact that Gamty were towards that middle side immediately as soon as the rotation comes around. Carry bouncing over Vasily towards this Baron, and they're pinging it out. It started off here, ladies and gentlemen, but as you can see, and as Gamty can't, there isn't any vision for our blue side
And with
team.
the max second consume, this Baron explodes.
My goodness. That was ridiculous. Destiny's being popped here as well as Let Me just eats an entire culling. Huey forced to run away. There's actually the flag and dragger Xiaohu. He gets wild growth and he flashes out of the way, but not into the wall. Beautiful use of some sort of cleanse to come down, as well as Dandy's chasing him down, and these tanks are immovable as the backline of Vici are tearing through Gamty, but Vasily dies somehow. Tail picks up a double. How did that even happen?
Why are Vasily and Marduk spread away from their tanks? That's the big question. They were completely separated from Carry and Dandy. Carry's the one that's been the consistent damage threat just because no one can even hope to kill him. Vici, they win a fight. Actually, it goes even. Very narrow fight. They'd probably pick up the 4th dragon, but they just disrespected Tail. They walked up to a Graves with an Infinity Edge Last Whisper Zeal, and they got exploded.
Yeah, and he switched over to purchasing that Last Whisper before finishing off that Static Shiv or Phantom Dancer, and really does seem to have paid off, because similar item threshold has been met here by this Graves now, and Tail really just showing that the burst damage of Graves onto Squishies is never something that you should underestimate.
But the Baron buff falling off from Twisted Fate effectively negates a lot of the advantages of picking up that buff. Okay, you get the big burst of 1,500 gold, but Twisted Fate has already been split pushed with the Baron buff minions. There was no one who was going to be able to answer that level of split push, so him losing the buff is a very important win for Gamti. And then Vasily and Mud just going crazy in the backline instead of just fighting around their tanks, which would have been a one-team fight for Vici.
Yeah, and I guess Vici just thought that, yes, we're tunneling onto all of the damage here because Zhao, who historically has been sort of the sole carry in a lot of these team fights on his Ezreal, but forgot that Tail's there, and he's got a gun as well. He can definitely do some damage.
It's Graves. Vasily was going so aggressively. Face-checked the QR combo. Still does a lot of damage, Atlas.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe we'll respect that more next time.
Yeah, Tong, though, can continue split pushing down here. Marta's there as well, just keeping an eye on the Twisted Fate, as Letme is just going to try and clear out these waves. Vasily clearing vision at the same time as Gamti. They've got a couple of wards moving up towards that river, but there's not enough vision on this map. As Huey just tries to clear some out, and Ardent Blaze finds him here as well. Flag and Drag, such a good disengage tool. And Huey's going to survive one more time, but they just need to be able to do something about this dastardly Twisted Fate.
They just need to get some presence on the map. They don't even have defensive wards now that they've been cleared up. It's just aggressive wards, and then 3 loads of minions pushing into their base with the Baron buff on a couple of members. That just helps with the push. We can see in the top lane, actually, you can see on the mini-map, a lot of aggression coming through from Na. Going for the turret dive rather than necessarily turret damage. Still has the teleport to rejoin the fight.
Yeah, didn't actually use his ultimate in that fight either, as well as True Shot Barrage just to clear out some minions. Howling Gale for a massive knock up here onto Zhao, as he manages to take down the empowered Siege minion there in the mid lane. And Hatong, now that he's backing, does pick up another needlessly large rod, looking to actually, yeah, a second needlessly large rod, of course, going towards that Rabbidan's Death Cap after the Zhonya's. As the culling coming through from Vasily, they really want to get the members of Gamti away from this inner turret.
But they don't have a minion wave to necessarily get turret damage on, so not much is gained from the use of that, but Zhao takes a bit of damage.
He certainly does. The Whimsy Shield is there. Huey gets knocked up from the Howling Gale, forced to use the flashes. Carry's coming in here as well. Does have the Mega Nub. There's the Gnar into the wall as Sync Dream gets caught, and Huey going to die immediately. A house comes down as Zhao takes a whole bunch of damage, and Marta just heals up his team as they tank that turret. No worries at all. And the engages from Vici when things go right just looked so good.
And that's 6 out of turrets down. They're going to start getting some turret damage. They don't have a minion wave, but some very super tanks to tank up these minions, and they're going to get some more kills.
Oh, Lemmy manages to use the Zhonya's, but you have to think that it's all going to be over here as... that was a brilliant ultimate come through from Dandy, as this inhibitor going to fall down as well. And Zhao looking for some exit kills. Vasily just goes so aggressive and dies to the Ezreal. Maybe a little bit of a lack of respect there from the Lucian, but they get the inhibitor and they only lose one.
And look, if you're going to have a brain explosion, have it after you already pick up an inhibitor, and that's the big thing. His first brain explosion made a one-team fight for Vici end up being an even one. The second one comes after they've already picked up an objective. Too much aggression from Vasily, but nothing that really Gamti can do to punish them for that. Zhao, he wishes he had his ultimate up, as Hatong was hanging around at the back of the fight at about 80 health for the majority of it. The aggressive dives when you have Dandy and Carry to tank the turret are very possible for Gamti. They are not safe under structures this game.
Yeah, and Vasily actually sitting on about 2,400 gold as well. Very close to getting that Bloodthirster if he wanted to, but not going to, just going to head straight out of base. So it's a bit of gold sitting in your pocket, sort of weighing you down there, not really turned into actual combat effectiveness as of yet.
But not really relevant when you're ahead 14,000 gold.
Good point.
If it was 5,000 gold, if it was half that lead, absolutely. But we're talking about a massive gold lead and just wants to go and pick up a bit more stats. It's Dandy. He's in trouble.
Yeah, he might be caught. There's the Soul Shackles, but flashes out of the way. Howling Gale as well, just to help out from Marta. And Dandy, surrounded by 4 people, was still fine.
Yeah, able to power walk away with just a little shield help from his good mate Marta.
Yeah.
Dragon a minute 30 away. I think Lucian's just trying to push and overextend to get enough gold for the Bloodthirster. Must have it now as he executes the back. And that's another crucial item time is Gamti. They're going to counter push him in and get an in a turret.
Yeah, there's only 3 members here in the mid lane as Super Creep's not going to be enough to stop this push. So answering with Some signs of life for Gamty, but still it's not really going to help against this 13,000 gold lead Vici that are just more than happy to split push everything. And as long as they don't take down the base to Gamty, then Vici just more than happy to continue splitting. And look at Hetong, so much damage to this turret. There's the Destiny coming down as well, just to get himself out of the way. Just heads to the mid lane, actually.
Yeah, I mean, just getting himself away. They got the Destiny, so they had exact positioning on all of Gamty. Remember, this is the 5th dragon in 35 seconds. Causes much furor. Huey might have to engage.
Yeah, collateral damage comes through, but doesn't finish off Marta, who's very, very low. Let me looking for something here on the side. But Vici is going to back away.
Yeah, they cannot team fight with Marta solo. Does still have Monsoon, but is forced to back away. They may have to also give away the 5th dragon for a second time. It's 1 dragon to 4. Doesn't look like they want to fight 5v4.
Yeah, ooh, Wildcard's actually going to get Arcane shifted over there as the stun card is going to come down. Brilliantly huge black shield from this Rabbidan's Deathcap Morgana is going to keep this Ezreal safe as Vici. They may have come through for a flank here at the same time. Let me might come through for some sort of engage. There's the Soul Shackles into the Zhonya's at the same time as trying to get people out of the way, but Vasily just going to execute Let Me on the front line. And Zhao, who takes down Hetong. Nice polymorph to come down from Sync Dream, but the quadra kill looks all too easy coming down from Vasily. And Carry, he's teleporting to the base. He doesn't care about a dragon. He wants to win the game.
Not even the 5th dragon can draw his attention as Vasily powers through the front line. 4-item Lucian finally has the items to really go for that aggressive playstyle, to really try and get the exit kills. And Vici, this was a textbook game from them and a very impressive strategic performance from this team.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. What with taking the experience advantage and pressuring that bottom lane so beautifully, picking up the first blood. Cataclysm onto Dandy. I don't even know whether he's going to die here as the turret goes down. As Huey, he's going to fall after taking the Yeti, and brilliantly played from Vici Gaming. And you have to hand it to them. It's just, there was nothing that Gamty could do.
A bit of a shame the Noble Yeti didn't live to see what all his work had opened up, but Dandy and Marta supplemented Hetong's split pushing so well. The vision control in the enemy jungle in the mid game was beautifully on point, Atlas, and it was just a wonderful performance. It set the tone very early. That early solo kill meant that it was always going to be a pushing advantage for Carry over Let Me with the Ruby Crystal start. And look, Vici never looked like losing that one. That's the scary thing for these top teams when we come to playoffs, is that when they get a start like that, they never looked like losing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and I wonder whether it comes down to draft here. But, ladies and gentlemen, this is only the first game out of the best of 2. We are going to be having Game 2 coming up very shortly as Gamty try to answer back against a huge-looking Vici Gaming.